simple fact is, some people get uncomfortable when they see a big knife.
Yeah.
And
Or even a small knife.
Sure.
I've had eyebrows raised with a mini Griptilian, and you guys know that.
Yeah.
If you're a knife guy, you know knives are not the most accepted thing in society.
We may not like that fact, but
It's
we
a
have to
fact.
live with it.
Yep.
Hey my friends, Late Boy Scout here, and you are joining us today at BladeHQ. This is Paul. This is Ben from BladeHQ. You're joining us today for our follow-up video to the Knives I'd Never Buy video, which you may have seen. This is sort of a requested video for some of the knives that I actually would buy, that I do recommend. Because that's one thing a lot of people wanted to know. Obviously, I laid out a bunch of knives and told them what I wouldn't buy and why, and they're like, well, what would you buy? So this video is all about that. Some of my favorite knives, 10 of them actually, 10 of my favorite knives.
Before you get into it, Scout, I want to know how many hate letters you got because of that last video. There's a lot of controversy over that one.
I wouldn't say there was hate mail, but there was quite a bit of
Heated discussion.
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely.
And that's
but
fine.
I think it was good discussion, though.
Definitely good
Absolutely
discussion.
good discussion.
Productive and interesting discussion. Overall, I think it was a pretty good, helpful video.
I think so, too.
But I hope this will be even more helpful. So a couple of things I want to make really clear before we start talking about these knives is, number one, this is my personal opinion. And you've got your own personal opinion about what your favorite knives are, and you should. You know, there are thousands of awesome knives out there. These are just the ones that really do it for me, and I'm going to explain why. The second thing I want to say is this is an evolving list. What you're looking at right now are the knives that I'm interested in and excited about today. 5 years from now, it could be an entirely different set of knives. Next, I've kind of divided these knives into two different categories. The first is EDC, everyday carry, my ideal for everyday carry. And they are kind of a smaller knife, one that is great in pocket and good in hand. And the next category that I divided it into is what I'd call EDC plus, kind of
a bigger EDC
exactly.
variety.
Good for EDC, but great in hand.
I think that's a good point because I'm a small knife guy. And I feel like in some ways when you buy a smaller knife, you're sacrificing that in-hand comfort.
Yeah.
If you really get down and dirty with your knife. Everyday cutting tasks, opening boxes, it's minimal.
Yeah.
But there's a huge difference between this and this.
Sure.
In hand.
Sure.
Show you that there.
Definitely.
So I think I like that categorization personally.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about some knives. So we might as well start on this end of the table here. I'm going to begin with the CRKT Ripple, and there are two versions of it we have here. This is the version that I've been carrying a lot. This is the one that is aluminum handled, and it has a steel liner. So it is a liner lock, and one of the things that I just love about this knife is how smooth it is. It's got that IKBS ball bearing system in it that just flies that blade open so fast. So it's great in hand, really nice in pocket, pretty nice and thin, extremely light. I think it's 3-ish ounces, no less, I think.
2.5 ounces.
2.5 ounces, oh my goodness.
Super light.
And this aluminum version here, it's actually really, really affordable too. What is it?
$29.99 or $31, just depending on which version you get, but it's in the $30 range. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, $30 range for a knife this smooth. The lockup is really good, front to back, side to side. And again, I've never seen a knife this smooth with such great lockup. That ball bearing system is just awesome. So that is the standard, the cheaper aluminum version of the Ripple, a knife that I absolutely love. And here is one of the more high-end versions of it. This is that bronze version. And the blade shape, by the way, I'll point that out, has kind of changed in the newer version of it. I think it's just as attractive and just as cool. And when you get that I think this is a stainless steel handle. Is that not correct? I think that's right.
I believe so with the well, the other one's aluminum.
Yeah.
This one is stainless steel.
Yeah, with that bronzed finish on it. And when you get this one, you of course have a frame lock instead. And that one is actually noticeably thinner than the aluminum one, since the aluminum has that outer scale plus liner, and this one is just the frame. So
point out on that frame lock too, Scout, just how close it comes to. I mean, you can barely tell there's a frame lock there.
Oh yeah.
Just that seam between handle and lock is just very thin, very minimalistic, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool
it really
design
is.
there.
It really is, and it operates in the exact same way with that IKBS ball bearing system for a really fast, smooth action. Nice tight lockup too. And
Tip down, carry only.
That's true. Tip down, carry only. The pocket clip is not repositionable at all. So you sacrifice a couple of things with that, but if you're okay with that, you're really into a very, very cool knife here. So the Ripple has just been a winner for me, and I absolutely love it. Next, we're going to move on to one that is kind of a newer favorite for me. I haven't been carrying this one for very long. We're talking about the Rat Model 2. And this, another thing about this knife, it shares some of the same characteristics of the Ripple in that it's an extremely, extremely smooth knife to operate. That action is just, I mean, it flies out. Just can't emphasize that enough. It's so fast. It's extremely light as well, under 3 ounces, 2 point something, I think. We'll get that for
I'll
sure.
look it up.
But it's also a liner lock. The scales on it, I think, are like a kind of a Zytel, kind of a plastic, but they're textured in a pretty comfortable way. They work really well. Everything about this knife is super comfortable. Fits great in pocket. It's 4-way repositionable, so you get a lot for your money there. With the ability to carry this pretty much any way you want, and it's compatible for righties or lefties. So, just an extremely comfortable knife to carry and to use. It's so fast, and just good steel. Love this little knife. Love it.
The thing I like about that one is kind of no frills, just a nice little pocket knife. Easy to open, easy to use.
Just overall, just an excellent little knife, and it's one of 2 knives actually that I've kept in my pocket during a recent move, while all the other knives I own were put away. So this knife did a lot of work, came through in a lot of ways, was carried not just by me but my wife for a while, and it's a great performer. Really love the Rat Model 2. Also want to talk about the Spyderco Centofante 3, which is another one of those knives that just I fell in love with. When I first got a hold of it, I just absolutely loved it. It has to do with the weight, the size, the capabilities that you get with this knife, and the quality of it. And it's also pretty affordable for what you get. This knife is, again, it's kind of a Zytel handle going on here. Not a ton of texture in it. It's fairly smooth on this side with just a little bit of decorative texture on that side. But still, as an everyday carry knife, as an everyday use knife, it's just fantastic. It does have a little bit of jimping there on the top of the blade that gives you a nice little purchase with your thumb there. The blade shape itself is really nice looking. It is a hollow ground blade, meaning that final edge can just get razor sharp. And that VG10 steel is so good for that, actually. It takes an excellent edge and holds it pretty well.
Easy to sharpen too.
Oh yeah.
I think that's important. For me personally, I'm not a sharpening expert, but that VG10 is, yeah, I just use a Spyderco Sharp Maker, sharpens it nicely.
Yep. So again, and the price range is 50, 60?
I think 63 currently on BladeHQ.com.
Okay. So definitely in a good range, I think, for a nicer everyday carry.
Lightweight too, right around the same weight as the Ripple,
Yeah.
2.5 ounces.
Yeah. The weight on it makes it, as I talked about before, it's one of those things that's great in pocket and good in hand. Because of the lightweight, because of the slim size of it. It's just fantastic for a carry knife. We want to move on to the Benchmade Griptilian, which is one of my all-time favorite knives. This blade right here just has it all. It really does. All the carry ease that you need in a good pocket knife. We're talking about a pretty nice slim handle there that just slips into your pocket so easily and so nicely and just disappears. And a blade shape that's excellent, and a blade size that's just perfect. It's kind of in the range where you feel like you can get some really good work done with this thing as far as just everyday utility, but it just doesn't take up a lot of room in your pocket, and that's, again, one of the things I love about the Griptilian. And the action on it, again, with that axis lock, nice and fast,
If
open,
you don't own an
close.
axis lock, you need to try it, folks. Like, man, I bought this knife 6 months ago, around Christmas time, 7 months ago now, and I just love it. I sit
Yeah.
there at my desk all day and I edit video and I flick it. And I flick it.
This is true. Yes.
Paul can attest to this. Like it's getting on my nerves, everybody.
Before you move on, Scout, one thing I love about the Griptilian as well is just options. Color options,
Oh yeah,
opening style options. You got the thumb hole, you got the
that's true.
thumb stud.
That's true.
Um,
And while we're on the subject, is for options, Benchmade's got their program where you can actually customize.
yeah, you can.
A Griptilian. You can get it made in whatever steel you want,
Yep.
whatever handle colors you want. It's pretty neat.
Which is stellar, yeah.
Yeah.
Which means you can't buy it from BladeHQ, but you know, if you got to have that customized style,
Yeah. If you really, really need it,
do what you got to do, you know.
Now this is one Ben wanted to throw in there. This one barely was eked out of my top five EDC knives. So we're going to let Ben talk about this one a little bit.
This is the Delica 4, full flat ground. Let me throw it up in there for you.
Yeah.
I carry this one as well. I love it. Very nice knife. And I don't know, it's just lightweight, simple, no frills, sort of EDC knife. And so I chose it. I chose this one about a year ago. Carried it for about a year. And I've just kind of, I love it still. Moved on though. You know, you get tired of, not tired of it, but it's like, what else is there?
Yeah.
How do I say this tactfully when you're a knife whore? Did I just say that? Oh man.
I'll go for it.
But I love it. But I did want to pull this one out too because Scout's going to get to this. This is the Delica versus the Endura. Kind of a size comparison you can see there. Both great knives. For me, I like the smaller version. Kind of goes back to our last discussion. Which sort of knife do you like? I like this one. I'm a smaller knife guy.
Yeah.
I think you've got a good mix here of big knives and small knives, just depending on preference.
Yeah.
A lot of this is just personal preference,
Yeah,
folks.
absolutely. And I'll talk about this one just briefly. It was, as I said, just barely eked out of my top five. And I'll tell you that the one that pushed it out was the Centofante. Just by a hair. I mean, this one.
Yeah,
won
but the
by just a
handle,
hair.
Scout, the handle.
The handle of the Centofante or this one?
The grip. Look at the grip on that Delica.
Oh yeah, you're
Let's
right. Let's get into it. I got more knives. Okay, so but that's not true. You have more knives at your disposal than I do. But no, he's right. The grip on this thing is superior, and if that's kind of one of the selling points for you, this knife is going to win, definitely. For me, something about the Centofante
That's fair.
just turned me on a little better than this one here. So again, it's kind of like it was in the top, I guess I'd say it's in the top 6, but I'm trying to stick to the top 5.
No, that's good.
So I want to move on now to the Kershaw Leek, finally bringing Kershaw into the mix. This knife is one that I avoided buying for a long time, and I'm not really sure why. I think it's just how prolific it was. It was out there for such a long time, you know.
Totally.
Everybody knew about the Leek. Everybody had a Leek. Kind of been there, done that kind of a thing. But then I got one in hand, and my goodness, you know, the feel of this little thing in hand, the way this thing cuts. The steel on that, the standard steel, is a Sandvik steel that sharpens so easily and takes a real razor sharp fine edge, about one of the finest edges you can get. As good as VG10, as good as 154 CM, in my experience. It holds that edge for a good long time as well. So the standard steel, again, this is not the standard steel. This is a Damascus version of the Leek, but the standard steel on it is excellent. And we'll talk briefly about the Damascus because that is indicative of the fact that there are so many versions of the Leek out there. This, in fact, is a frame lock version of it, which I recommend if you want the maximum thinness, the thinnest profile you can get. The aluminum handled version is also great, but this one is excellent for just thinness in pocket. And there are so many different versions, not just in lock variety, but in color. You know, there are loads of different versions of the standard stainless steel version handled one, and also lots of different aluminum ones, and they change them every year. So if you're a collector and you just love the Leek, you've always got something new to buy. So
Perpetual winner too. I think that's the thing. It's a perpetual winner for Kershaw and for the industry in general. If you're a consumer, this is a great knife. It's tried and true. You know it's going to work well.
I didn't demonstrate that fast spring assist either, so wanted to point that out. The spring assist is quick and real convenient, and just that nice little razor sharp needlepoint tip on there is so great for all kinds of everyday cutting tasks. So it's just an absolute winner in my book. Fantastic little small EDC folder. Definitely a kind of a limited, lightweight, and minimal folder, but so good for everyday carry. So we covered the 5 or the 6 or so of my favorite
threw
EDC.
one in.
Yeah, Ben got to throw one in. Why not? Why not? We covered those EDC knives, the ones that I feel are ideal for EDC. You know, the right size, the right weight, the right kind of steel. Now let's move on to some of these that I put into the category of EDC plus. You know, larger knives that are still really good in pocket, but just feel great in your hand.
Before we move on, Scott, I just want to make this comment.
Yeah.
I carry these smaller knives. Part of the reason I do that is if I whip that out in public, like if you whip out a Griptilian in public, full size, sometimes there's a shock factor there.
Sure.
And for me personally, I have no training with a knife. I'm not going to stab somebody with a knife.
Right.
I heard somebody in the store the other day say, I need a bigger knife for getting people in the gut. It's like, well, I don't need a big knife for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important distinguishing factor there.
Sure.
Is just the fact that
Intimidation factor.
People get nervous.
Sure.
They really do.
I think that's a valid point. Depending on who you are and what you do, obviously, you don't want to necessarily shock people when you pull out your knife to open a package or to take care of a cuticle on your fingernail or something like that. It's like you want to be able to do that and also have everybody around you feel comfortable with the fact that you're doing that. And the simple fact is, some people get uncomfortable when they see a big knife.
Yeah.
And
Or even
so-
a small knife.
Sure.
I've had eyebrows raised with a mini Griptilian, and you guys know that.
Yeah.
If you're a knife guy, you know knives are not the most accepted thing in society.
We may not like that fact, but
It's
we
a
have to
fact.
live with it.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to some of the larger knives, let's start with one that I've been using for a long time. This is the Rat Model 1. The Rat Model 1 just, again, hits almost all the bases you want. You've got a Zytel kind of handle. If that were G10, it'd be slightly better, but it's okay. You've got a 4-way repositionable pocket clip that rides adequately deep for me. You've got a liner lock that is pretty nice and strong in there. A fairly robust knife that fills your entire hand, or fills my entire hand. Of course, you can get your thumb up on there with that sort of rounded jimping, but I still find it quite effective. This, of course, is the serrated version of the knife. It comes in non-serrated, it comes in coated, it comes in various colors of handle scales. So again, you get some of that variety factor with the Rat Model 1 in this case. A great blade shape as well. You know, a really kind of classic, what would you call that? I think a drop point with a great little belly there. Really nice blade shape. Good piercing, good slicing. Just an excellent sort of outdoor folder or EDC plus kind of larger folder for you. It's also in a pretty affordable range.
Yeah, $30 range for that.
$30 range, okay. So it's not out of reach. You know, if you want something pretty robust and pretty high quality, you've got that in this knife. So it covers all those bases for not much money. Really like the Rat Model 1.
Can we take a size comparison look at the
Sure.
1 versus the 2 there?
It's a great idea. So there you go. The 2, obviously on top there, is just so nice for everyday carry. It's so minimal, small. But then the 1 is also good for everyday carry, but just great for more robust tasks. Now we've got to talk about the Benchmade Griptilian if we're going to talk about EDC plus size knives. You know, robust, high quality knives that are going to get some hard cutting tasks done for you, but also be pretty good in pocket. The Griptilian by Benchmade and the Mini Griptilian are Benchmade's 2 top sellers. They sell above anything else they have, with good reason. These knives just have it all. They've got that fast axis lock. I'll demonstrate that again. I mean, you can sling it open, sling it closed, use the thumb stud here. It also comes in that, what do you call that, the thumb hole version.
Thumb hole version.
Yeah, they have different names, different numbers associated with them. But each one is just nice and robust, nice and tough, with excellent steel, 154 cm. A nice, I think they call it the Norel GTX handles that are actually really tough. Benchmade's pocket clip, which is pretty standard and is repositionable to the opposite side. So righties or lefties, it's a totally ambidextrous knife. I didn't really talk about that with the mini Griptilian, but they're completely ambidextrous because of the axis lock and because of that repositionable pocket clip. So this is, again, one of those that you can slip into your pocket and carry every day if you're willing to take a little bit more size. And when you are going to go on camping trips, hiking trips, things like that, and you want something that's a little more robust, and that's kind of my personal opinion there. I like having something a little bit tougher if I'm going to go out in the woods for a little while.
Absolutely.
And I may also take a fixed blade.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to have a fixed blade and a backup folder, that backup folder may as well be able to do as much as it possibly can.
Yeah.
And so I like having a big, robust knife like the Benchmade Griptilian in situations like that. So that's one that I could not leave out. It's just a great
Stellar
folder
knife.
for that.
I actually kind
EDC plus
of, I
size.
resisted buying a mini Griptilian. I didn't want to buy it because I'm like, well, everyone owns it.
Yeah.
But everyone owns, not everyone, but a lot of people own a Honda and Toyota because they're great cars.
Yeah.
You can debate that in the comment section, but when you get right down to mileage and how long it'll last, they're good cars. And I feel the same way about the Griptilian. It's a great knife. A lot of people own it, but a lot of people own it because it's amazing.
With good reason.
With good reason.
I think those two knives, you just can't leave them out of a discussion like this.
Absolutely.
They're just so high quality that they're easily favorited, and you can't go wrong in buying one of those two.
Yeah, and you'll love it. And the guy next to you might carry one, but hey,
So what?
so what, right?
And you can, like we said, you can personalize it. You can
Yeah,
do the
you
same
can.
thing with the Griptilian as you can do with the mini Griptilian.
Yep.
So if you really need to make it special or get a special version of it, get the one that really suits you. We're going to move on to another Benchmade that is also an axis lock folder. This one is the Benchmade McHenry & Williams 710. Yeah, 710. This is a D2 steel knife. It takes a while to resharpen, but it holds its edge for a good long while, and it is nice and tough. Now, one of the reasons I put this in the sort of EDC plus group of favorites is because it's one that I've relied on quite a bit in situations where perhaps I'm traveling or something. By traveling, I mean probably in my car, not necessarily flying. But I'm going to be gone somewhere, and I'm very limited in what I can bring. So I'm not going to bring my whole knife collection. Maybe I'm going to be gone for a week or two, and I got to have just one knife on me. So I want something that's going to keep an edge for a long time, be able to do almost anything I need it to do, and slip in my pocket pretty easily. And this fills all those points, all those roles. It's relatively slim for its size. It's also, one of the things I'll point out about it is this dimension right here as well. You can see that it's not real fat when we look at it this way. So it slips into your pocket and kind of disappears with a lot of your other gear. It's also got that great axis lock on it, so fast deployment, fast retraction, to close that thing back up, and all one-handed. You don't need to use two hands to open this thing or to close it. And so that's a real nice feature of this one. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I felt like the Benchmade McHenry & Williams 710 needed to go into my favorites for EDC plus size knives.
Benchmade has a formula, axis lock, different design, kind of different features and variations.
Yeah.
But I think you can't go wrong with them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's kind of a proven formula. I was just thinking of the Osborne, I forget the number on it. They're almost the same knife, but just you get down into little things that individuals like, and it gives you options.
Yeah,
So I mean,
absolutely.
this to me is another Benchmade axis lock folder in a huge lineup, and it's like, all right, what specs do I need in my knife? What steel do I need? And it gives you options.
And
So
some of
that's-
the times it takes coming in and handling some of these knives, coming into a place like this and checking them out, trying them out, and seeing which one you really enjoy in your hand.
Yeah,
and really kind of
absolutely.
picture yourself doing some hard work with. And once I got my hand on that, I was pretty much
You
sold.
wanted it.
I
Yeah.
wanted it. It did it for me. Moving on to another Spyderco here. This is that Endura that we were talking about earlier, and we did that little size comparison with the Delica. The Endura has a lot of those characteristics of some of the other larger folders, but also some of the lightweight of some of your smaller folders. And it's also a pretty tough little knife as well. It's obviously limited because we're talking about one of these sort of Zytail handles, relatively thin liners in there, but they are steel liners. It is a back lock, so it's easy to operate, very simple. And you just you get all that all that in a package that's around 70, I want to say.
Yeah, right around 70. I think currently $68.95 on BladeHQ.com.
$68.95. VG10 steel.
3.4 ounces.
3.4 ounces, great.
Super light.
So VG10 steel is one of my top 3 steels. VG10, 154 CM, and that Sandvik 14C28N are probably my favorite 3 steels right now. And I feel like they're pretty much all on par with each other, but anytime I can get one of those knives, or I see one of those knives for a good price in one of those steels, I'm interested. And the Endura's got that. Also, just a fantastic blade shape, really great utility, good little bit of piercing there with a nice strong tip. You can see that they made an effort to not make that a real kind of needle point, because they wanted you to have a little more of a robust, strong tip, and they did that with this knife. Now this version is the FFG version. They also have a saber ground version, but the one that I own is the ZDP 189 steel with the saber ground blade on it. But it's just a great little folder, fast, light, and as far as sort of the EDC plus size folders go, this is definitely a winner.
Paul is kind of new to knives. He's been working at BladeHQ for 6 months, and you had this one on your desk the other day.
I did.
Explanation, please. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I like bigger knives. As my EDC, I carry a
Okay.
ZT350.
Oh, nice.
Kind of like the little more girthier knives with me.
All right.
But I had the Endura and the Delica side-by-side comparisons going on.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I went mountain biking with my 350, a little bit too big. In the pocket there.
A lot of weight.
So
Yeah.
I was going for a smaller knife, but man, I really love the bigger knives.
You bring up a great point with that, because the weight on that one can be really crucial, really critical in situations like mountain biking or
Ultralight
backpacking,
backpacking.
hiking.
Yeah.
You want to have some capabilities. You want to have something that's somewhat robust, but you don't want to bring a tank along with you, you know? And so
Yep.
this fits into that category of really carryable, larger knives.
Let's talk about that lockback for just a second, Scott.
Sure.
I noticed you closed it one-handed.
Yeah.
Talk about that comparison versus, say, an axis lock.
Okay, sure. Well, you can do almost any lock so far that I've found you can do one-handed if you kind of work on how to do it safely. And one of the ways that I found to do the back lock safely, depending on the knife, and I encourage you to be as careful as possible as you try some of these. One of the ways that I found to close the back lock one-handedly is with this knife in particular, you can usually just kind of hold that down and give it a little gravity with your finger up here at the front, blocking that choil, and then that will enable you to drop it just enough that you can then kind of turn it and get your thumb, rotate it all the way down with your fingers clear. So there are a lot of ways that you can still use a back lock one-handed, no problem. You can also just kind of ease it down with your fingertip the whole way, just kind of back lock right there, thumb on it, and then fingertip here, and then just sort of rotate it a little bit like that with your fingertip, get your fingers out of the way and close it the rest of the way. So again, if you kind of work on how to do it, you can close almost any lock one-handed. And compare that to something like a liner lock, which is really definitely designed to be closed one-handed. You can definitely do two hands if you really wanted to, but just kind of the thumb pushing it across and then giving a little finger action there to close that thumb out of the way, and it's closed. And then something like the axis lock, while yes, it does open and close a little bit faster with that little flick, are you really sacrificing the ability to open and close something one-handed by going with something like a back lock? I don't think you are.
I don't think you are either. I think the safety factor, safety and speed.
Safety and speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the enjoyment, guys. I tell you, that axis lock, if you work a desk job, you need it.
Yeah.
Because it will make your life happy, I'm telling you.
And it will just annoy the crap out of anybody sitting next to you.
Yeah, you're right.
Unless you work at BladeHQ.
Yeah, unless you work at a knife store.
Moving on to another knife that is also really easy to open and close one-handed. We're talking about the Spyderco Paramilitary 2.
Easy to open, hard to find, folks.
Yeah, and You know, BladeHQ will have it in stock from time to time.
For like 5 minutes.
For like 5 minutes. I saw it on your website the other day, and you had all 4 versions of it.
Really?
Yeah, you had this one right here, then you had the one with the bright blade.
Did the clouds part?
I think they
Was
did. They
there
must
angelic
have.
music or anything?
A light came down at me while I was at my desk and just inspired me to go to your website and look, and there they were. And then you had the black handle with black and black with satin, and I was like, wow, look at that. You've got all of them, and I had no idea how many you had in stock. So I was like, well, maybe I'll stop by later today and maybe pick one up. And then, of course, an hour later, they were all gone.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's a very, very popular knife right now, and Spyderco can't churn them out fast enough in their USA factory.
Mhm.
And it's just for good reason. Why is this so popular, Scout?
why is the Paramilitary 2 so popular? Because it's got absolutely everything, and then more, too.
And then more.
And then more. So you've got a G10 handle scale covering up what appears to be just kind of a liner lock, but it's not. It's actually their compression lock, which actually operates through this little back liner-like thing. You kind of push that tab in, and then the knife just kind of drops down like that. So this knife has fast and easy one-hand opening. It feels a lot like the Axis lock in how fast and quick
Sure.
you can sling that open just by holding on to that little tab, you know. And that right there is a huge selling point, and it's got all the fun factor of the Axis lock right there. So
Fun factor check.
Fun factor
Sign me up.
check. So that's one of the things that it's got. Now next, the blade shape is fantastic. It's got kind of this needle point, really nice, great for detail work. A giant belly, just kind of a big, long, continuous belly here in the blade. Big, fat thumb hole for opening. A nice ramp here with jimping on it, so you get a hold of that and have a great grip on it. Then one of the big extras for me on this knife is this little forward choil right here that is jimped for you to get your fingers up on it and really choke up on that sucker and do some fine detail work, which you might have seen me doing in one of BladeHQ's videos where we field tested this exact knife. Actually, this one's mine. This is the one knife on the table that belongs to me, because BladeHQ doesn't have one for me to pull off of their shelves and show to you right now. But by the time you watch this video, maybe they will, and keep checking back with BladeHQ.
Yeah.
And don't you guys have like a mailing list?
We do. You can go on the website, and I think you put it on a wish list, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. We'll send you an email when it comes in stock, and you got to just buy right then. On a knife like this.
If you know you want it, and I'm telling you, you want it, put yourself on that list, and then when you get that email, just come and get it. You know,
Yep.
because you're not going to find it anywhere else anytime soon.
Yeah,
probably.
just buy it.
Just buy it.
Just buy it.
So I don't know if there's anything else I need to cover on this except maybe the 4-way positionable pocket clip. So
You talked
both
about the steel,
top and
right?
bottom.
S30V?
Oh, S30V. I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah, S30V. It's just a fantastic steel as well. I mean, I mentioned before my 3 favorite steels are probably VG10, 154CM, and the 14C28N Sandvik, but only because they're easier to sharpen than S30V. And S30Vs are not really that hard to sharpen. You know, it's as far as some of the harder steels are concerned, it's actually pretty doable. It's got a nice, fine, even grain structure, and it takes a wicked edge and holds it for a really long time.
Totally.
And again, demonstrated by our field test.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Spyderco Paramilitary 2 is one of those with everything and a little more, and definitely, probably, of all the knives here on the table, I'll probably say this is my favorite. So,
You and everybody else right now.
me and just about everybody else right now.
And I think this knife, I don't even know how long this one's been out. If any of you guys in the comments know that. But I think this is the kind of knife that's going to turn into kind of a Benchmade Griptilian, where it's a perpetual winner for Spyderco. You'll see a lot of different sprint runs. That's my guess. I'm guessing. I know we had a brown sprint run of it.
Yeah.
I've seen a blue one kicking around. A lot of different varieties in this knife, and with good reason. I think it's going to be a perpetual winner, like the Leek, like the Griptilian.
I'm with you on that. Now, there's one more I want to throw in as kind of a bonus. We've covered my top 5 and one of Ben's favorite EDC size folders, then 5 of my favorite EDC plus size folders. Here's a bonus one that I want to throw in that I actually recommend highly for any of you that wants a good EDC plus size folder that will get some really hard use done and be fairly carryable. But again, you're sacrificing a little bit of the carryability when you go with the EDC plus size folders, in my book, in my opinion. And that is, surprise, surprise, the Cold Steel Recon 1. Is anybody surprised? You're probably surprised. In the first video, in our Knives I Never Buy video, this is the first one I said I'd never buy. And I actually still don't own this, but I've owned some other some of these triad locking cold steels before, and they are tough little knives.
They are.
They are tough. I mean, Cold Steel, I got to hand it to them as far as building a tough, rugged knife. They know what to do in that region, in that category. And the Cold Steel Recons, I mean, none of their knives really beat it as far as I'm concerned. And none of these knives beat it as far as ruggedness is concerned. So for EDC Plus, if you want something fairly robust, you're not too concerned about size, you want something tough, here you go.
Great
This is
knives.
it. And also not too badly priced.
Right. I think this is off the top of my head. I think it's in the $60-$70 range, right?
Yeah, I think it comes in really close to the Endura in price, and definitely below any of the Benchmades or the Spyderco. And you get some of the same robustness, same toughness with this one. Well, there you go, guys. That is 5 of my favorite EDC knives and 5 of my favorite EDC Plus size knives. I guess that makes 10 favorite knives.
Plus Ben's Extra, right?
Plus Ben's Extra.
The Ben Special.
Yeah, that's a Baker's 11 or something.
Baker's 11.
A Baker's 10. I don't know. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. And BladeHQ, thanks again for having me.
Thanks for coming in. As always, Scout is amazing because he loves knives.
Yeah.
And he loves to talk about them. So whenever he says, hey, can we talk about knives? You bet I'm down.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we appreciate you coming in.
Hey, my pleasure. And we'll say one thing in closing. Ben, this is probably the last video I may do with you.
Yeah, it's true, unless we get that thing going next week. But this,
oh, yeah, that's right.
Plan on this being one of the very last videos on Scout's channel for now.
Yeah.
I'm actually moving up to Portland with my family. I took a job up there, and I'm really excited about it. Kind of a new opportunity. Sad to go.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm sad to lose my employee discount. Let's be honest, folks. Let's be honest. That
Yeah.
employee discount's nice, but yeah, a new opportunity, and so we're headed to Portland. So
Well, we're gonna miss
That's
you.
why I'm growing my beard, which you probably can't even see on camera.
It's hard.
All right.
Hey, I can't see it
In
from
person.
here.
I hate you. Good
But
stuff.
Paul here at BladeHQ will be taking over Ben's position, so I look
Right.
forward to hanging out with Paul and
For sure.
making some videos and coming in and hanging out with you, bud.
For sure.
All right, well, thanks so much for hanging out with us during this video. I'm the late Boy Scout. We'll see you later.
Thanks, guys. This is going to end up on the video, I'm sure. Anytime I do stupid things in your videos, they end up on YouTube.